August 17th, we have some big changes going on in real estate. And I thought this was going to happen, but I thought it was going to be designed, based on there was the NAR lawsuit and some other stuff going on. I'm not going to go into all that right now, but I thought there were going to be more, protections coming out for the consumers. And after what I've seen over the last couple of days, this has nothing to do with consumer protection. This is all about protecting the realtor's commission. And I'm okay with people making money. Don't get me wrong. But the way it's being presented, and you shared a video with me today about one guy, and his tone really kind of, I'll be honest with you, he made a comment that really pissed me off about working with veterans, and be careful working with veterans or you may not get paid. I just about lost my mind. But let's talk about this. So you've seen it, I've seen it. So what do you think about it, Wendy? Let's just go from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's more. I will say this because I used to work a little bit in the real estate world, and it was always set like 3%, right, on one side, 3% on the other, for the most part. And then there were a couple people that,
it varies by state,
lower. And the realtors all hated when someone else would put a lower percentage in there, and they said they'd make it unfair. And things used to be listed on MLS as the percentage that was being paid out. And now they're taking that all off MLS, and they're letting everything become a lot more negotiable as far as fees. So I don't know. You think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I think for the savvy buyer, it is. But, the challenge with that is, like I used to actually be a licensed realtor, and I owned a real estate company. It's still in business today up in Indianapolis, Indiana. And we introduced limited service listing to that marketplace, where we would list your house for a lot less. And if you wanted to even list it on the local MLS, we would do that as well. And we offered a buyer's agent fee, and typically that's what happens. The fee there was 7%. And oddly enough, every single realtor in that MLS all charged 7% forever. That doesn't sound like competition to me. So which is why we introduced the local limited listing, and they ended up kicking us out of the MLS, said we couldn't do that. And then there was a national lawsuit against the NAR back then, and all of a sudden they said, no, you can't allow that. So then they started putting all these other obstacles in, requirements and stuff like that. So I sold the company, and don't get me wrong, I love realtors. I think they deserve a commission, and I think they deserve to get paid. I just do not like how this was being presented internally with realtors. And I want to make sure that buyers are aware of this. And that's why we're talking about this, because it can end up costing you a lot of money. So like Wendy said, traditionally, you've got a buyer who sells a house and they pay a fee of, 6% in Tennessee. It was 7% in Indiana. I don't know if it's still there. And it may vary by market, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, I think in New York. But don't quote me on that. And it's one of those things that traditionally it was going to be half for the buyer agent, half for the selling agent. The selling agent, the listing agent, the buyer's agent, the person who drove them around and found the house. Well, that's all changing now. And so there are two forms basically that are going to be required. This is going to be nationwide, August 17th, where you've got basically a buyer's representation contract now, that if you buy a home, if you want to go buy a home, before you can even go on site to look at the house, you've got to have one of these requirements met. And that's where you sign this buyer's agent agreement to say you're going to work with them on buying a home within a certain period of time. I'm guessing there's some kind of escape clause if that realtor is just horrible, because there are good realtors out there. And there are some that, do this super part-time and, aren't so great. But I'm assuming there's some kind of wiggle room on that. But basically, you're locked in to that realtor for that period of time, whether it's 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, or whatever the case may be. And if you buy a house during that period, you've got to pay them the commission.